realizing that he is God, he pays his obeisances to the Lord, and then he prays to him. So what does he do? He first glorifies the Lord. He glorifies him so much, describes his opulences, and then he also makes a statement that, you see, your opulence is so much, and you are Ananta. So it's not my fault that I did not understand you. Many cannot understand you. And then he also tells ki, okay, devotees can understand you. And that also, which kind of a devotee? Who hears about you, and hearing with body, mind, and heart. Not simple hearing. So completely focused with full faith in the Lord. If you hear, such a sincere devotee can, if he can get even a small amount of transcendental knowledge about Krishna, then he can go back to Godhead. So we are, Krishna is Ananta. We cannot know completely about him. It's not possible. But because of his mercy, if a pure devotee can even get a small glimpse, a small knowledge about his transcendental qualities, he will be benefited and he can go back to Godhead. So complete knowledge gaining is not possible. So what is that small amount of knowledge which is sufficient? That Krishna is the Supreme Lord without any doubt. So we should believe that he is the Supreme Lord and we are eternal servants of Krishna. So this much incomplete faith is sufficient to take you back to Godhead. So Brahma then makes a point that I, being the knower of all the Vedas, am not able to understand you. So the yogis and jnanis cannot understand you, but a pure devotee can. And after that, Brahma asks permission to leave. So he takes leave of Krishna and he goes back. Now, immediately after that, all the Gopa boys are there. Krishna is back into the same situation where he had left them. And these cowherd boys are bewildered by the Lord's illusory potency. And so they don't remember anything. For them, it was just a moment, right? So then when they see Krishna, they are like, oh, you have returned so quickly. We have not even eaten one morsel of food in your absence. So they are all like, come, 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 we will all sit and eat together. We were all waiting for you. And then they finish their meal. They complete their picnic and they go back homes. And all on the way, they are glorifying Krishna. They are talking about Aghasura, how Krishna ended Aghasura. And then they go back home and they talk about this whole episode at home as well. So for them, this period of 1 year is not registered. They feel as if just now the things have happened and they are telling it, describing it to their parents at home. So after this, we come to the next pastime. Once these cowherd boys, they all go to the forest and then they talk to Krishna and Balarama. They say, not very far from here, there is a great forest and it has lot of palm trees in it. So shall we go there? And they try to lure Krishna Balaram into it. They talk about how great that forest is, what is good about it. So they say, that forest is Talavana and many fruits are falling from the trees. They're all lying on the ground. They smell so great. They look so nice. But we cannot go and have it because the fruits are being guarded by an asura, by Dhenuka. And they envious. They will not allow us to go anywhere nearby. But we want to taste those fruits. This Dhenuka is a powerful demon who has assumed the form of an ass. And not only he alone, he has his friends also along with him who are all of the similar uh, ass form. So they all protect that area. And anybody who goes there, they even eat them alive. So all are scared to go to that place. Even the animals, the birds, they are afraid to fly across those trees. But you see, the fruits are very sweet smelling. And none of us have ever tasted it. So you can even get the smell, the fragrance of those fruits all around the area. So they plead Krishna. This is Krishna. Can you please get those fruits for us? We are so attracted to that aroma of the fruit. And Balaram, can you fulfill this desire? We have a desire to have those fruits. If you think it's a good idea, let us all go to the Tala forest. So that's how they coax Krishna and Balaram and make their point clear that they are all very eager to taste those fruits. Now, hearing this, Krishna Balaram laugh. And as usual, Krishna is very eager to fulfill their desire. So they all set off and they go to Talavana. So all these cowherd boys, along with Krishna Balaram, they reach there. Now Balaram enters the forest first and he looks across the trees. So what he does, he starts shaking the trees. Just like a mad elephant which will rub against the trees, what happens? They shake them so hard that it looks like they might get uprooted and fall. Right? So he shakes them pretty hard and the fruits all fall to the ground. Now hearing the sound of the fruits, tap, 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 this as demon, he suddenly becomes alert. He says, what's happening? So much of a trembling in the trees, huge sounds. Now, what is happening? Why is this tremble happening over here? And he just rushes to the spot. He sees Ram over there. And then he tries to protest. So what does the ass normally do? With the hind legs, they attack, right? So this Dhenukasura also attacks Balaram. He hits his chest with his hind legs. And then it starts running around trying to scare all of them, braying very loudly. He moves towards Balaram once again to attack him. So when he turns, with his back towards Balaram to lift his hind legs and to hit him, Balaram takes hold of his two hind legs. He seizes him by his hooves and he whirls him round with one hand and threw him far. So he throws him so high in the air that he falls onto the top of a palm tree. So the motion which Balaram had hurled him, the force with which he falls onto the tree almost breaks. And with that force, he falls down and he's killed. So when the demon landed in the treetop, the tree also shakes. This tree shakes, the surrounding trees shake because they are all closely towards one another and the force is so much that this tree bends to the other, hits the adjacent one, and like that several of the trees around are broken under the weight of the demon. So that is how he brings the end of Dhenukasura. Now seeing that Dhenukasura is fallen on the ground, dead. So his associates, the other friends of his, they all are enraged, they are angry, and they just march towards Krishna and Balaram. as if they want to take revenge. They are like, oh, you killed our friend. And they all march towards them. These demons attack Krishna and Balram, but these two boys are opulent, easily seize them one after the other, and the same way they will whirl them and throw them on the tops of the palm trees. So now the whole area is in a mess. There are fallen trees. These demons are on the ground, and heaps of fruits which are covering their bodies lying around, spread over all the ground. So it is said that the place was looking very nice. It looked as if the sky is decorated with the clouds. The whole area having the fruits, the greens, as well as the demons lying on it. So looking at this, the demigods and all other elevated living beings, they were all happy that these demons were killed, and they shower flowers. They offer music and they glorify the Lord. So now the demons were gone. So it was open for the people to enter the area. They could come, they could eat the fruits. The cows could now graze freely in those lands. So that's how Krishna and Balaram get rid of the demons in Talavana. And the cowherd boys are now very, very happy because they could taste those fruits for which they were longing for such a long time. So after Dhenukasura, we'll go to Kaliya Daman Leela. So you see, this episode happened when Krishna entered the age of 6, right? So 6 to 10 years of age is called the boyhood. And Krishna was very, very eager to tend the cows. So till now, we know they were small. So they were tending only the calves, the baby cows. But he was so eager to tend the cows that he was pestering his parents for quite some time. And now that he entered boyhood, so he still requests his father that he wants to tend the cows. And Nanda Maharaj has a meeting with the elders, and then they finally decide, okay, it's the right time to give them permission. And that's how they get the permission. Now, Krishna Balaram are very happy. Krishna runs to Yashoda to tell about this. He said, now see, I got permission to tend the cows. So from tomorrow onwards, I am going out. Now, Mother Yashoda, as usual, is very fond and very concerned about little Krishna. So she is like, oh, your feet are so tender, you're so small, how will you walk on the hard land? And then she says, okay, you got the permission, you can go, but you have to wear the shoes and go. Now, Krishna is like, no, I'm not going to wear the shoes. Mother Yashoda is persistent. No, 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 you should wear, otherwise you'll hurt yourself. And Krishna says, okay, on one condition, I'm going to wear them. If all the cows can have their shoes on, I will also wear the shoes. If they can't wear, I will not. Now, Mother Yashoda is like, what? How can I prepare so many shoes? How can I get so many? Because how many cows they had? 9 lakh cows. So she was like, okay, this is not possible, so forget it. And that's how Krishna ends up going barefoot to the pastures. Now the cows heard this. So they were overwhelmed by the mercy of Krishna, by the love of Krishna. And they were like, yes, Krishna should not be hurt. We should protect his feet. And the cows walk ahead. So with their hoofs, they run around the land and they make the soil very soft so that Krishna doesn't have a problem walking on that ground. So the cows walked first because Krishna is shoeless and they didn't want him to get hurt. And that's how this tending of cows begins from the day of Gopashtami, that is celebrated as Gopashtami. So then we come to the next Leela. So in Brindavan, Yamuna flows. So this Yamuna was inhabited by the serpent Kaliya. There was once who was there who gives the curse to Garuda. Okay. So Garuda was cursed that you cannot enter Yamuna or you cannot come into Brindavan. So Kaliya serpent, who was originally residing in some other place. What was that place? Ramanakadvipa. So his home was Ramanakadvipa. But he was driven away from there by fear of Garuda. And Garuda was cursed by a yogi dwelling in Vrindavana that he could not come to Vrindavan. And if at all he ever came, he will meet his death. So therefore, Kaliya chooses this place because it is safe. Garud can never come here. And he chooses this place. He enters the waters of Yamuna and makes it his residence. But Kaliya was not a good serpent. So he was spreading poison. And so much that the whole place became poisonous, intolerable. Nobody would want to go near it. So the waters of Yamuna, not whole Yamuna, but this was that particular piece of the river which was in Brindavan that got polluted. So constantly the water was hot, boiling. The vapors will be rising, and the vapors were so poisonous that even the birds, if they flew over that area, they would fall down. It's a contaminated waters. And the air surrounding it was also poisonous, so impure that none of the living creatures would prefer to dwell in its vicinity. Even the wind blowing over that deadly lake carried some droplets of water to the shore. So if people come in contact even with that breeze near the lake, they were affected. The vegetation was affected. Creatures, the small animals living around the shore, they also died. So looking at all this, he had in his mind, something needs to be done. So one day when they were playing somewhere near to the river, the boys, along with Krishna and Balaram, they were playing a game with a ball. So it happens that he hits it so hard that it falls into Yamuna. And then Krishna is the one who has to go and get the ball, right? All the boys are too scared to go near the river. And because it was shot by Krishna, they all say that you only have to get it up. So Krishna goes. This is his chance. So he goes near Yamuna, and there he climbs the tree on the bank of it, and that's the Kadamba tree. He climbs it, and then he jumps into the river. So see, with the force with which Krishna jumps into the river, the water makes a huge sound. And so much of a water is forced to fall out. So the water swirls in a way and makes a very loud sound. When Kaliya hears these sounds, he understood that someone has come into his area. And then when Krishna was jumping around and moving in the water. He was making huge sounds. The water also became turbulent. Although he is small, but then his strength is too great. So the water became turbulent. And with all this noise, Kaliya couldn't tolerate. So he came up and he was like, Who is this who has intruded into my area? And then he sees this Krishna who wore yellow silken garments, very delicate, attractive body, who was shining like a white cloud. He had this Srivatsa on his chest, smiling face, very beautiful. Now his feet resembling the. But Kaliya was very, very envious, right? So despite his wonderful appearance, Kaliya was furious that this intruder has come and he's disturbing the peace. So he hits him on the chest and then he coils around him. He wraps around Krishna. Now, by this time, all the boys have come a bit closer because they are also worried. Krishna has jumped into the waters and this is a very dangerous place. Nanda Maharaj and all the others had already warned that the boys are not supposed to go near this part of Yamuna. Now they were all worried. What will happen? Their dearmost friend is down in a very dangerous place, and now they are seeing, they are worried what will happen what will happen to Krishna. And here the snake has coiled around him. And now there is now they are too much concerned about their friend Krishna. They were very grieved, fearful, and some of them even fell onto the ground thinking what's going to happen. The calves, they also were in distress. They were also mourning for Krishna. They were all anxiously looking at the river as to what will happen now. Will he emerge from there? Too shocked. Now, Nand Maharaj and other cowherd men, when they hear about this, they also become fearful. Now, they knew that Krishna had gone to herd the cows, but there were some bad omens, some signs, and they were like, is something wrong? Because today, Balaram didn't go with them. So they were all too worried. They also were thinking, is something going to happen? But they were not aware of the opulence of Krishna. So they all also, they come running to the place and thinking for the safety of Krishna. But Balaram knew everything. Try to go near the Yamuna and they want to save Krishna. Balaram stops them. He says, no, you all cannot go. It's too dangerous. Krishna will manage. So now Krishna, he, as usual, is very playful with Kaliya. He's not at all scared. Now his footprints had this glorious marks, he has this lotus flower, the elephant, goat, thunderbolt, flag, etc. No? So the residents of Vrindavan will watch for these footprints on the ground going in search of Krishna. So that's how they all land up to the place where Krishna is. So from a distance, they see that Krishna is in the lake, coiled by the serpent, and they are all now struck with fear. Krishna was now in the grips of the serpent. So they all remember Krishna, the loving pastimes, his smile, his talks, and they are all worried. So too much of a distress in everybody's face was visible. They were all fixed, looking at the sight. So the Lord remains in the coil for some time, doesn't do anything, as if, he is a normal person, not able to fight back. But then when he sees the residents of Vrindavan are all very anxious, they are now in acute distress out of their love for him, he immediately rose up. He breaks the bonds of the serpent. So he expands his body. He expands it so much and with such a great force that Kaliya had to release him. Now, in anger, the serpent then raised his hoods as if, to warn, to attack. So it raises its hood and then breathes very heavily, and its tongue, the red tongue coming out as if I'm going to devour you right away. And he stares with his eyes, very red. Terrible, the poisonous fire coming out of its mouth. But Krishna, least bothered, keeps on circling the Kaliya, just as if you are playing around a bush. So he just keeps on running around him. Now, in response, Kaliya also moved because it wanted to attack Krishna, it wanted to bite. So, and this boy was very swiftly moving around. So the hoods of the snake, the Kaliya, also had to move around. Krishna was so fast and so much he ran around that the serpent was depleted of its strength. He was tired. So now Krishna could jump onto him and he pushed down the Kaliya's shoulders and he mounts on his head. So that's how Krishna climbs to the top of the hood of Kaliya. And then he begins to dance around on it. So one or the other hood will rise. Kaliya will try to attack, show his anger, and Krishna will quickly jump onto that hood, as if trying to subdue it. No, you can't. I am the master, and you cannot lift your hood in front of me. So seeing this, it's a very quick moment, and anything Krishna does is very elegant, very nice, very pleasing to the eyes. So all this was happening so nice that the denizens, the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, all people from the heavenly planets were viewing this and they were enjoying. It looked as if the Lord was dancing on the hoods of Kaliya. And these denizens were playing the drums, mridangas, anakas, made some offerings of songs, showering flowers, and Krishna was enjoying. So Kaliya had so many heads, and Krishna was constantly tapping onto one head or the other in a rhythmic movement and enjoying it thoroughly. And everybody was in a wow, looking at it. And they also were mesmerized with this beautiful dance for quite some time. And ultimately, Kaliya was totally subdued. His head was reeling. He vomited blood from his mouth and nostrils, and it was in great pain. So the poison was being emitted from his eyes as well. He couldn't now raise up his heads. He was totally subdued. He was breathing very heavily, although very much angry that not able to do, and this little boy could subdue him, could force him to bow down, and that also with his foot. Now looking at this, the wives of Kaliya, they were all worried. The wives of Kaliya were devotees. So they could realize that he is the Supreme Lord. And they saw how their husband Kaliya became so fatigued by the weight of Lord Krishna and how his hoods have been shattered, no? And he was in great pain. So they were so much disturbed. But then they come forward to plead Krishna to leave their husband. So they are devotees. They don't have any anger. They don't have any envy with Krishna. So they just bring their children across and they stand in front of the Lord, bow down to him, pay their obeisances, and then they desire to leave. They plead Krishna to leave their sinful husband. So with folded hands, they plead him, they pray to him. So there's a whole chapter on the prayers of the Nagapatnis, how they glorify Krishna and how they please him, and Krishna obliges. So now Krishna has subdued this Kaliya, and then being pleased by the prayers of Nagapatnis, he releases Kaliya. But then he tells, see, out of fear of Garuda, you left the Ramanaka island and you have come here to take shelter of this. But because you are now marked with my footprints, when he was dancing on the hoods, his footprints get imprinted onto the hoods. So he says, now that my footprints are there, Garuda will no longer try to attack you or eat you. So now you leave this place, you go away, you go back to your place. And that's how he releases Kaliya. So it is said that if one bathes in this place, in this waters, and offers the water of this lake to the demigods, if one observes a fast and duly worships and remembers Krishna, he is sure to become free from all sinful reactions. So that's how Kaliya was released. He also accepts the supremacy of the Lord, and along with his wives, he also worships the Lord, thanks him, and he leaves the place. So what does Kaliya indicate? Now, by these two stories, there is something for us to learn. Kaliya is a serpent. The serpent is known for brutal cruelty, maliciousness, pride, envy, anger, crookedness, right? So Krishna, by dancing on the hoods and bending its heads, not allowing it to raise its head, actually removed or got rid of all these qualities of the snake. He purified him. And that's how he also becomes the devotee of Krishna. And similar thing happens with Dhenukasura also. There also we have this learning. Dhenukasura, the ass, it represents ignorance of knowledge of the soul. It's called the beast of burden, right? So as long as we continue in this material conception of life, we will remain like asses carrying the burden of our past sins, of our previous lives, and will be suffering karmic consequences. So here was killed by Balaram. And Balaram is none other than the original spiritual master. So this demon is killed by the spiritual master, means the spiritual master destroys the donkey propensities in us. He teaches us about the importance of surrendering to Krishna and becoming free from the unnecessary burden of our karmic reactions. So Balarama is the original spiritual master. He teaches us that there is no need to carry the big burden of our materialistic responsibilities. It's quite unnecessary. There's no need to carry the fruits of our activities. So just surrender to Krishna, offer everything to Krishna, and enjoy. So here ends the pastimes of the killing of Dhenukasur and Kaliya. So with this, we end today. Are there any questions? Okay. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंतकोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। जगद्गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। गुरु महाराज की जय। निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल।
हरि बोल।
So thank you everyone.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you Mataji, very nice Mataji, thank you. One of the interesting chapters, Kaliya is.
Thank you Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
No, you can stop the recording.
Yeah.